morning. I'm Brent Combs. I'm a sergeant with the Glendale Police Department's Public Information Office. This morning, we'd like to take the opportunity for the commander of the Criminal Investigations Division, Commander Rick St. John, to make a brief statement to the press. Commander St. John.
Thank you, Brent. As Brent said, I am Commander St. John with the Glendale Police Department's Criminal Investigations Division. I have primary oversight into the case involving Jhessye Shockley. Let me make it clear from the beginning that the men and women of the Glendale Police Department are dedicated to seeing this case through with a thorough and complete investigation, unbiased in every way, for the safe return of Jhessye Shockley. The first few days of the investigation, you saw a big presence out at the site where Jhessye was last seen. We had multiple law enforcement agencies, local, state, and federal, involved in the investigation. We had civilian groups who came, some of their own volition and some because we called, to assist in the efforts out at the scene. One of the things that we were doing out at the scene is a complete canvass of the area. Our hope was that in going door to door through that community and the adjacent communities, up to and including about a 1-mile radius surrounding the abduction site, our hope was that someone might have seen something that would help us solve the mystery into the disappearance of Jhessye. In that canvass, we did uncover some information that became useful and led our investigators in various different directions. At the conclusion of the canvass, after we had deemed that we had gathered the information that was possible to gather from the scene, we concluded that portion of the investigation and moved on to the next phase of the investigation. Now, as you also know, we issued an Amber Alert as part of this investigation. And we had a team of detectives working through the tips that were coming in through the Amber Hotline, also through the National Center for Missing and Endangered Children. Those detectives following up on those leads, as well as the leads developed as a result of the canvass and the efforts out at the scene in the first few days, have continued to go on and will continue to go on until Jhessye's found. Leads are still coming in. Let me say that again. We are still receiving leads from the public that need to be followed up on. I have several teams of detectives in my division who are dedicating their full time and resources to seeing this case through. Our hope is that one of the leads that we're receiving will lead to us finding out the whereabouts of Jhessye and hopefully bringing her home safe. We are hopeful of that possibility. We're hopeful that she will come home safe. That being said, I want to take the opportunity also to thank the different local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies that responded to help out, the citizen groups that responded to help out. There were thousands of man-hours poured into that canvas and poured into the initial scene. We continue, as I stated, to spend hundreds of man-hours per week trying to resolve and bring to conclusion the leads that we've gotten, again, in the hopes that one of the leads will find us the information that we need to find Jhessye. It's important in the success of resolving this case that the public be hyper aware of their surroundings. We don't have information at this time, credible evidence or information, to call this an abduction or kidnapping. However, it would be short-sighted of our department to exclude that as a possibility. So that being said, I'd like the public to know that in cases of kidnappings and abductions, a lot of the time, the kidnapper or person who's responsible for the abduction will change the appearance of the child to try to protect anonymity so that they don't get caught or they don't get found out. So the public needs to look at the flyer that we've distributed and then in their own mind kind of create what the child might look like in different clothing, with a different hairstyle, with glasses on. Anything that you can think of that you could do to change the appearance of a 5-year-old is going to become important. And we need people to be aware of those possibilities, stay aware of their surroundings, and notify us of any information that they might have that they think, or even if they're not sure, give us a call, let us figure out whether it's a viable lead and how much we need to invest in that information. And I promise you, no lead that we've received at this point has gone unchecked. Every lead that we've received, and we have received hundreds of leads, have been followed up on. Now, most of those leads have led to some type of inconclusive finding, where we simply have to say, okay, we've taken it as far as we can go. We're going to hold on to that, but we're going to move on to the next lead in the hopes that it will have the information that we're looking for. Along those lines, I'd like to make a plea here today. There is someone out in our community that knows the whereabouts of Jhessye. They have the information that we're seeking. We need that person to call in. We need the person with the information on the whereabouts of Jhessye to call in. I understand that there's a fear factor involved, and that they think that if they have the information and they come forward, that there may be some type of retaliation against them or something along those lines. That's secondary. You saw an outpouring from the community. These people that came to the scene over the first few days, they weren't coming to rally around the Glendale Police Department. Had this happened anywhere else in the valley, you would have seen the same thing. This was a rally around a 5-year-old girl who had something happen to her, something that we don't yet know. So fear is secondary. The community has already rallied around this case. We are continuing to work this case to the best of our abilities, using the resources that are at our disposal, and by that I mean experts from the federal government, experts here in the state of Arizona, and the people who have been involved in these types of cases from the local and other state agencies. Those people, even now, are seated at a table discussing what more can we do. We need that piece of information. Someone out there has that piece of information, and for whatever reason has decided not to call. We need that information. Please call us. Put your fear aside. Think of this 5-year-old. Think of the impact this case has on the family and on the community as a whole, and provide the information so that we can resolve this issue, find Jhessye, and bring her back. As I stated, there are many things still going on with this investigation. One of those investigative tools that you'll have an opportunity to observe will start this afternoon at about 3:30 p.m. I'll have teams of detectives back to the site. Today is the one week anniversary of Jhessye's disappearance. What is common in these types of investigations is that we'll go back to the exact day and time where the child was last seen. We'll re-canvass through roadblocks and having detectives on foot talking to people that are just walking around the area, handing out flyers and gathering any information that people might have. We understand that there are people that at times only travel to a specific part of our community for various reasons. So there may be people that were there last Tuesday but haven't been back until today for whatever reason. Those are the people we're looking for. We'll also go back into the complex. We'll talk to neighbors. We also understand that given time to think and consider and talk to other people, which helps to bring things to recall, people may have information now that they didn't have when we originally went into the complex. So we'll recontact those people, speak to them again, and find out what new information may exist. Our hope is that through the recanvass and talking to the people in the neighborhood, we'll come up with that information that I've been talking about to this point. And it really is just that simple. There is that piece of information that's going to lead us to being able to resolve this case and bring Jhessye home. And our hope is, and our every effort and everything that we're doing, is to find that piece of information that will lead us to where Jhessye is, so that we can bring her back to a safe environment. And that's our hope. I'd also like to add that from the very beginning, the City of Glendale has posted on its webpage, through Webmaster and through KGlen 11, on a reoccurring stream, information about this case. So if you have a desire to learn more about what we're doing and what's been done or how you can provide information, please visit our webpage or turn on KGlen 11, watch, learn, and then give us a call. I think that's all I have to say. I guess we'll open for questions.
Do you think that she may be in California?
The question was, do I think she's in California, or do we think she's in California? We're not ruling anything out. when I said that we have to conduct an unbiased investigation, what I meant by that is there are several possibilities. We cannot rule out any possibility until the evidence and facts of the case rule it out. So our opinion about where she might be, our opinion about who might be involved, my detectives, the supervisors in my division know, because I've told them time and time again, take your personal biases out of it. Investigate the facts of the case, and when the facts of the case lead you in a direction, follow. Otherwise, keep looking for the facts.
Have you identified any persons of interest or suspects?
The question is, have we identified any persons of interest or suspects? We have not named any suspects in the case. We do have many persons of interest.
Why were the other sisters taken away and placed in CPS custody?
The question is, why were the other sisters taken away and placed in CPS custody? I can tell you that this is a joint investigation. The Glendale Police Department is not in the business of removing kids from homes. That's the job of Arizona Child Protective Services, and that might be a question better answered by them.
Was there any abuse in the home that was revealed during your investigation?
The question is, was there any abuse in the home revealed during our investigation? While I don't know exactly what's gone on in the home, I will say that our investigation has not revealed any hard evidence to suggest there was abuse in the home.
Have you offered or has Mom taken a polygraph exam?
The question is, have we offered or has Mom taken a polygraph exam? A polygraph exam is an investigative tool. It's a tool for trying to determine whether or not what you have is factual. There are other ways to try to determine whether what someone is saying or what someone is, I guess what I'm trying to get at is the statement that they're making. There's other ways to try to determine whether or not that statement is factual. And so what we like to do, just because of the nature of the polygraph and the stress that it places people under, and this idea that if you're being subjected to a polygraph, you're somehow now the primary person of interest, we want to try to avoid that because we understand that the mother is going through a great many ranges of emotions right now, having lost a 5-year-old child and having it now been going on for a week. So the polygraph is not a tool that we've taken off the table. It is an option. We have been in contact with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, who has a polygrapher. They are at our disposal, and we are in discussions about whether that's an option that we'll use. Right now, we're using the other things that we have as resources to try to show that what the mother's telling us is accurate.
Which would mean you have to corroborate where she was during that hour and 30 minutes. Have you been able to corroborate her story?
The question is, have we been able to corroborate her story? We're diving a little close to the facts of the investigation. I'd like to steer away from some of the specific facts of the investigation. As I stated, we are using the investigative tools at our disposal to prove whether or not what Mom is telling us is accurate. I have, based on my knowledge of the case, I don't have any concern over what she's saying.
Is the family cooperating in the investigation?
The question is the family cooperating in the investigation? And I'll simply say yes.
Of the persons of interest, are any of them family members?
Of the persons of interest, are any of them family members? Anyone that had contact with Jhessye over the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, people that have knowledge of their living situation and the dealings of the home. And what I mean by that is people that normally come and visit, friends that they hang out with, places they go to play, all 3 kids, where they go to school. All those pieces are of interest to us right now because we are in that fact-finding stage. We are still looking for that one piece of information that's going to lead us to where Jhessye is. And so everyone right now that knew Jhessye, interacted with Jhessye, is a person of interest.
We have time for about 2 more questions.
There have been talks and rumblings about a potential landfill search. I think somebody did a site visit to Glendale City landfill.
Sure.
I don't know if there's transfer stations that these dumpsters would have gone to. Can you kind of update us on where that's at?
Sure. And the question is regarding the Glendale landfill and the site visit that we made at the Glendale landfill. With any investigation into a missing person, and under the circumstances specific to this case, what we do is we go out to the Glendale landfill and we talk to the supervisors out there to find out when garbage was collected from the area, where that garbage was placed, and in what manner it was placed out there. And so we have secured the areas of our landfill where that garbage was taken from over the days prior to and the day of the disappearance. And that's more of a just in case, I would say. If we need to go out and do it, we want to make sure that we have it available to us. We don't want to lose evidence because we didn't do something that up front should have been done.
Last question, please.
Some people are reporting that the investigation is leaning in the direction of kidnapping. Is that true? And if not, are you leaning in any particular direction, such as foul play or just a child being lost?
And the question is the investigation leaning towards kidnapping or are we leaning towards foul play? And I hate to restate, but we're not ruling anything out at this time. We don't have information or evidence, hard evidence, to show that this was an abduction or kidnapping or that it was anything other than an abduction or kidnapping. So we're treating every lead as if it's the lead that give us the information that we're looking for, whether it's a lead about persons of interest involved in the case or a lead about a sighting in another jurisdiction, which would tend to lead you to believe there was an abduction. They're all being treated with equal diligence, I guess I would say.
What's the status? Let me just ask one question at least. What's the status in regards to the other kids? Have you spoken with the other kids? What sort of information did they provide? And does it at least seem to be fairly, common in regards to what they're saying or consistent with what they're saying? There's no discrepancies, no confusion or anything like that?
Right. The question is about the other kids in the home and whether or not we've interviewed them and what their statement looks like. Again, diving real close to some facts of the case that we want to hold close to home for now, and I can explain a little why we're doing that if it helps. We have interviewed the children, and we have plans, if needed, to recontact them, bring them back in for some clarification. And that's true of any investigation. You do an initial interview, you find out what they know, you give them time. As I spoke about with the people in the complex, we know, because of the job that we do, that given time, people recall things that they originally didn't recall. And so there may be a time when we go back to the kids and speak to them again for clarifying points or because something has come up that in their interview we didn't ask about.
But nothing jumps out in regards to a red flag in regards to their stories being a little bit different in terms of one saying one thing, another saying another.
Red flag. That's an interesting use of words there. Their statements are consistent with the statements of their age. I as a father of children myself, speaking to my younger all the way up to the older, you're going to get varying degrees of detail and explanation, and that's what we're seeing in this case. The younger kids versus the older kids, there's just varying degrees of detail, and that's common and it's expected. So I wouldn't call it a red flag. What I would say is there may be the need for us to reapproach.
Is that why they were removed and separated? I guess to make sure that their story remains the same?
The question is that why they were removed and separated? Again, the Glendale Police Department didn't remove the kids. We don't say what happens to the kids after they're removed should CPS make the decision to remove them. We've not interacted with CPS in that regard. In other words, we've not gone to CPS and said, don't let them be together. Don't let them get on the phone. Don't let them get on the computer. We're not doing that. We've taken a statement from them. If we need to go back to them, then that's what we'll do. We're not concerned about them being together.
Okay, Rick, thank you for the